Welcome to NFL World, where the NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob, and welcome to the NFL Dream, where we finish off at least season one of the NFL Dream with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we were going to do the Cowboys yesterday, but then stuff started to come out with Deron Bland and other contracts, so we just decided we'll do all those Cowboy videos on Wednesday, and then we'll do the prediction video at some point today, if not early tomorrow. So let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. And it's easy to know this. You've been watching my channel for a long time. You know this. I'm a Cowboys fan. That's how I. So you can understand why I have such a passionate outlook for them. It's why it's frustrating to me when some of the moves they make are head scratching, like the Micah Parsons video was. I couldn't wrap my head around it when it first happened. I had to wait a day because I couldn't wrap my head around it. But some of the moves that they did make in free agency were actually pretty solid moves. But Cowboys fans have been so desensitized from those moves. I'll give you a great example. Last year they said, we're going all in. They did not mean all in by normal team standards, which would be let's shove all of our poker chips to the middle of the table. Did not mean that. They meant it as we're all in on the players we have right now, and if it doesn't work, we blow it up. That's what they meant. That's what they actually meant. Every other team would say, we're shoving all these chips in the middle of the table. We're trading all of our draft picks for veteran players. We're signing veteran players. We don't care how much money we spend. Like, we'll worry about that when the time comes. That's what they were trying to accomplish. That's not what happened, though. So Dallas didn't do anything in free agency. They ended up having to sign two D tackles late in August, which no good players in August. It's kind of why they're still available in August. And they had a bad year because of it. You really put those coaches at a disadvantage talking about McCarthy, Zimmer, everybody. You put them at a disadvantage. You really tied their hands behind their back and said, still find a way to push yourself forward. It's just not going to happen. Some of the moves they made on this year was more indicative of what the phrase they used this time around. They used the term selectively aggressive. Now, what does that exactly mean? Well, it means they signed two running backs, Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. Williams signed a one-year deal. Sanders, the same thing. Both those guys were available for a reason. They were not there because they were great. They were there because someone overtook them to the point that those teams said, well, we're just going to cut them because we don't want to spend that kind of money. So that's who came up. But the biggest move was Dante Fowler coming over from the Washington Commanders, reuniting with the Cowboys. Had an awesome season. Has to be more consistent, though. He's had awesome years in the past, and then the next year he can't follow up on it. So he's got to be better, especially with the move about with Micah Parsons, which we'll get into. They made some nice trades early in the free agency period too. Kyle Elam and Murray were both trades. Elam fell out of favor in Buffalo, didn't work. The Cowboys, they love a reclamation project. That's what they love to do. That's a Will McClay special. That's a Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones special. They just love a reclamation project. First round pedigree guy who got drafted. He gets to go to a new place and showcase what he can do. That's why they made the move for Kyle Elam. They had all those fifth round draft choices. So they just said, hey, let's send one, let's get Elam. Maybe we get something in return. They got a sixth. They traded a different sixth for Kenneth Murray. They got Murray and the seventh back. So that's what they did. Solomon Thomas, he reunites with the new Cowboy defensive line coach, White Cotton. Devontae Turpin, Marquise Bell signed 3-year contract extensions. They were restricted free agents. So it's really not an extension. It's just they were restricted free agents. We're back. They were restricted free agents who, if they didn't sign this deal, depending on what RFA tender they put on, they could be put in a situation where they couldn't play football again, or the team that signed him would have to give the Cowboys a draft. That's what would have happened. So they got those contracts done. Brian Anger, the punter, signed a 2-year extension. Again, really more like a 2-year contract. Some departures were Rico Dowdle and DeMarcus Lawrence, who were starters for you. Dowdle had 1,000 yards. Lawrence has been a stalwart player for you. When healthy, he's one of your best run defenders, if not the best run defender you had. He went to Seattle. Dowdle went to the Panthers, respectfully. Udoga and Cooper Rush. Chuma Udoga and Cooper Rush. No one's going to know who those guys are. Cooper Rush was the backup quarterback. He went to the Ravens, which was kind of odd because that's not like Lamar Jackson at all. One guy can't move, the other guy runs around, makes incredible plays. Chuma Udoga went to the Jaguars. Backup offensive tackle. That's pretty much what it was. Some of the draft picks they had, Tyler Booker was drafted at Alabama in the first. Edge rusher Donovan Ezaraku from Boston College. Savone Revel, it's pronounced. Savone Revel Jr. In the third round, which we'll go to that story on the podcast, which will air either today or tomorrow. Jaden Blue, the running back from Texas in the 5th round. Shamar James was also a 5th rounder. They traded up for him. Ajani Cornelius, the offensive tackle in the 6th round. He made the team because he actually didn't commit a penalty for the longest time in the preseason. So he actually did some nice job, and he wasn't getting beat. Nice work there. Defensive tackle Jay Toya, defensive tackle Tommy Akabasante, and running back Phil Maffa were all drafted in the 7th round. Maffa, the most interesting of the 3 guys, makes the team, gets put on IR. The IR rules are a little different. This is why teams take advantage of it, because it works. They can do this. Before the rules were, go all the way back. So go back to the COVID era. Remember that year and a half, 2 years? The NFL changed the rule. They said, okay, if you on IR, you can have every player, 53 players on the team at one time. You can put a player on IR, each player on IR one time, and he can return after 3 weeks. You could do that. So it didn't matter if you had a sprained toe or a torn ACL. Yeah, you could, if you were put on injured reserve and designated to return, you could. Then the NFL was like, oh, that didn't work. So then they shortened it and said, okay, 8 people. But you would have to carry, if a guy got injured prior to the season and prior to a roster cut down time, you had to carry them through roster cuts to when the roster was cut down to 53, you had to carry them through, then put them on injured reserve so they could return. Now the rule is you could put 2 people injured reserve with the designation to return as long as after. If you're going to do it again, you have to do it after. You can do it, I think it's 4 more times afterwards. I think that's the rule. Not 100% certain, but I know you can do it twice. That's what the Cowboys did with Phil Maffa. Because they wanted to keep him around, because he was the one guy who showed something of the running back outside of Jaden Blue, who only played in 1 game. Again, some of the people who walked in free agency, Rico Dowdle, DeMarcus Lawrence, also Jordan Lewis, who went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That one was a big one. Because as bad as it was to lose DeMarcus Lawrence, Jordan Lewis was your slot guy. He was really good at it. To lose him was bad. I don't know why they have here that Dowdle signed with the Raiders. That's not what happened at all, but they did. And also, here's another thing: the Micah Parsons trade that happened on September 1st. That the Cowboys traded Micah Parsons for 2 first and Kenny Clark. It still takes me a while to wrap my head around it after saying it. After saying it, because you got rid of one of your best players, maybe your best player for it. But was that because this team was not good enough? Bringing in a guy like Kenny Clark, before you couldn't stop the run. Now with Kenny Clark, hopefully you can stop the run. This was a team that went 7-10 last year. So obviously they were 2-7 at home. They were 5-3 on the. They lost the final 2 games. They were 5-3 on the road, so they're actually a better road team. But they hadn't won a game for like at one point for almost 2 months. They were that bad. And again, like I said before, they handcuffed them. The front office handcuffed McCarthy and the Cowboys so badly that it was going to be hard to win games. And it was hard to win games. It's hard enough to win a game when you have everything at your disposal. When all of a sudden you are playing with your hands tied behind your back, it's impossible at times. But this is why I think this team could be better. And I keep saying this. I said this in the Washington video. I said this in the Philadelphia video. There's 3 teams, in my opinion, that are in this division that can win 3 games. That can win 11 games. That's my opinion. There's 3 teams that can win 11 games. And the reason I said that is because I truly do believe it. Looking at the schedule, looking how they play, you can see it. Let's get into the schedule. So, first game of the year, week 1. It's the first primetime game as well on Thursday night at Philadelphia. Home for the Giants in week 2. At Chicago, home for Green Bay, at the Jets, at Carolina, home for Washington, at Denver, home for Arizona on a Monday night. Bye week 10. So that's the first 10 weeks. The bye week's in a good spot. We want that in there. Week 8, week 9, week 10, week 11. That's where you want it. You could say week 12, but to me that's a little later. Week 11, Monday Night Football at the Raiders. Home for Philadelphia on a short week. Home for Kansas City on Thanksgiving. At Detroit. Home for Minnesota. At the home for the Chargers. At Washington. At the New York Giants. So you play at MetLife Stadium twice, which that's always a bad place to play because the field's not great. Detroit is the same way. It's not great. You got to be concerned when you go there. But I look at the schedule from weeks 12 through week 17. That's tough. That's very tough because of the amount of games and the fact that all those teams made the playoffs. Does not mean anything in 2025, but it does have to be stated. But looking at the schedule, especially looking at the top half of it, you can win a lot of those. You can. Without Micah, it's going to be a problem because you're betting on guys, and I'm going to name them the players that are supposed to take over for Micah Parsons. I guarantee you haven't heard of anyone unless you were a fan of them in college. I guarantee it. Sam Williams, James Houston, Marshawn Nealon, Donovan Ezaraku. Those are the four people who are taking over from Micah Parsons. I guarantee you none of you know who those people are because they're just not impactful. James Houston had that one great year in Detroit. That was it. Sam Williams has had 6 sacks, was his highest point of his career. Ezaraku is a first round, a first year player, I should say, a first year player out of college. Marshawn Nealon is only in his second year. None of you know who these people are. You're betting on a lot. Having said that, I see this team's high peak being is what they should reach for is 11-6 because of the top half of their schedule. If they can find a way to win, I see them winning 11 games. It's going to be really tough in the latter half of the year. Can they find a way to win enough in the early of the year to maybe that they can hopefully that energy brings it forward into the second half of the year. But my high point for them is 11-6. My low point's 10-7. That's what I think they'll be. Will they make the playoffs? I don't know. What I will say is, I think they'll be good, but this offense needs to lead the way, especially early on. And that has to start in Philadelphia. NFL World, I'm Jacob Hewitt. At the end of season 1 of NFL Dream.